All right, this is Brain Physiology and Function, Section B lecture. Our prioritized standards this time are 3A and 3D. Objectively, we're going to analyze the central and peripheral nervous systems. Now, the central nervous system, or CNS, is a part of the nervous system that is comprised of the brain and the spinal cord, which serves as a command center for the body. Now, the brain is responsible for making complex decisions, coordinating bodily functions, and initiating behavior, while the spinal cord predominantly serves as a supportive role to the brain. Now, the spinal cord serves as a sort of neural cable, or like the body's HDMI cable, by connecting the brain to the rest of the body. While the brain is required for voluntary movements, the spinal cord does actually control simple reflexes. So simple unlearned responses triggered by stimuli. So if you touch something hot, your hand goes away. That's again going to be a reflex that's usually controlled by the spinal cord. Now, damage to the nerves in the spinal cord can produce paralysis, with the higher the side of damage resulting in the greater extent of paralysis. For instance, you guys might be a bit young, but the actor that used to be Superman had a serious injury where his spinal cord was injured very high and therefore made him paraplegic. Now, the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS for short, are all the parts of the nervous system lying outside the central nervous system, which include the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. So again, brain, spinal cord is central. Everything else, all those series of nerves, is going to be your peripheral nervous system. Now, the PNS carries messages between the brain and the sense organs, the internal organs, and also the muscles. The PNS carries the incoming neural signals telling your brain about sight, sounds, taste, smells, textures. And the PNS also carries the outgoing neural signals telling your body's muscles and glands how to respond. So, in a sense, the PNS is like the FedEx or the UPS of the CNS. They provide pickup and delivery service, but they don't actually make decisions. The autonomic nervous system is a division of the PNS, so again, this is a part of the peripheral nervous system, that sends communications between the CNS and the internal organs and glands that respond to stressful and emergency situations, which is divided into a sympathetic division and a parasympathetic division. Now, the sympathetic division, this sends messages to internal organs and glands to help in responding to stressful and emergency situations, and also is associated with the arousing behaviors. So this is referred to as the fight or flight system because, again, it carries messages that help us respond quickly to a threat, either by attacking or potentially by fleeing. So again, sympathetic is the rise to action. Now, the parasympathetic division, this monitors the routine operations of the internal organs and returns the body to a calming, functioning state after arousal by the sympathetic division. So if the sympathetic division is the neural gas, in a sense, they're punching the gas, then that means the parasympathetic division is going to be the neural brakes, returning our internal resources to a more calm and collected state. Again, a rise to action, time to cool off. Now, the somatic nervous system is also a division of the peripheral nervous system responsible for carrying sensory information to the CNS and enacting voluntary body movements via skeletal muscles. So this is going to consist of your sensory and your motor neurons in the somatic nervous system. Now, while much can be learned through studies of people that suffered severe head trauma or through experiments achieved through brain surgery with like a neurosurgeon, so like Phineas Cage is a famous case. He had a steel rod that went right there through his brain and out, and it left him with a very completely different type of personality afterwards. So we've learned a lot through case studies like that. But in modern times, researchers research generally or researchers rather, generally learn about the internal structures or functions of the brain through several tools like the electroencephalogram, that's a big word, which is why I'm going to call it the EEG for future reference, and also different types of brain scans. Now, with the EEG, researchers have studied the brain's electrical activity that records brain waves by placing electrodes on the scalp. Now, the EEG senses which parts of the brain are most active and thus identify electrical patterns involved in certain activities and mental processes. Now, the EEG can reveal abnormal brain waves caused by brain malfunctions. So those that this stuff can occur with epilepsy. EEG is not actually considered a very precise instrument, as it has limitations as to what it can do. But if you're looking to try to determine if somebody's having seizures or a few other different types of things, this is going to be a very beneficial tool you could use. Now, there are several types of procedures known as brain scans or brain imaging, like CT scanning, PET scanning, MRIs, that make images with things like an X-ray, radioactive tracers, or magnetic fields, which allow researchers to make vivid images of brain tissue without opening the skull or physically invading the brain. Now, such tools can actually help neurosurgeons locate brain abnormalities like tumors or stroke-related damage to the brain. But psychologists additionally will use these images to show where our thoughts and feelings were processed, with specific regions of the brain seeming to light up when a person speaks, reads, solves problems, or feels different types of emotions. Now, a computerized tomography or CT scanning, so that would be like this image. This creates a computerized image of the brain from X-rays that are passed through the brain at various angles. Now, the positron emission tomography or PET scanning produces an image showing brain activity by sensing the concentration of low-level radioactive glucose or sugar concentrated in the most active brain circuits. So this would be like they give you some usually chalky, sugary drink just before you have this, and then it sees what's happening by following the radioactive glucose. Areas of high concentration usually show up brightly colored on the image. Those that are not are going to be not as brightly colored. And also we have the magnetic resonance imaging, or more simply MRI, which makes detailed pictures from tissue responses to powerful pulses of magnetic energy, with newer techniques like the functional MRI, distinguishing which parts of the brain are most active during various mental activities. Now, generally, each method is going to have different pros or cons, but used collectively allow psychologists an opportunity to better understand mental processes. All right, that concluded Brain Physiology and Function, Section B lecture. Our prioritized centers again were 3A and D, and now hopefully you can objectively analyze the central and peripheral nervous systems.